Hey guys, it's Alexandra from EyeLoveKnots.com and yarncraftsandcoffee.com. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a really easy blanket worked in half double crochet stitches. I'm going to finish mine with one round of single crochet, so I'll show you how to do that evenly around into the side edge of half double crochet stitches. I've worked mine to the newborn size, but I'm sharing instructions for making several sizes, from photography blanket sizes that you can use for layering underneath the baby all the way up to a king size. You're going to need some worsted weight yarn. That's a number 4 weight yarn. I'm using Lion Brand Pound of Love. I have Oxford Gray as my main color and then white for the border. You can use your favorite worsted weight yarn for this blanket. The awesome thing about this yarn is that one ball is 1,020 yards. So I made the newborn size and I had plenty of yarn left over. In fact, I caked up what I had left, and I also have done several other projects with this yarn as well. So one ball of yarn really does go a long way, especially if you're going to do a bigger size, or you can easily change this up and do stripes or color blocks. And together with that worsted weight yarn, you're going to want to use an H8 5mm crochet hook. This is my favorite hook that I got from Sienna's Boutique on Etsy. Gauge is not essential for this project because the finished size is flexible, so if you're more comfortable working with an I9 5.5mm hook with your worsted weight yarn, feel free to go up a hook size. As you're working your border, you may notice that even if you're working the correct number of stitches, the border might ruffle, and this is caused from a change in tension. It's normal. I did not have to change hooks on this blanket, but I have done it on other projects. If you notice that your sides are starting to ruffle, then you're going to want to take out your border, go to a smaller crochet hook. In my case, from an H8 5mm hook, I go down to a G6 4.25mm hook, and then use this hook just for the border, and it'll come out nice and even and flat. You're going to find all the information linked down in the description box below, including the link to the written pattern, as well as the link to my newsletter. Blog subscribers can access the free file library on my blog and download pattern PDFs for free. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm starting here with the yarn pulled over my fingers. We're going to make a slip knot. I'm going to wrap around my index finger 2 times. I like to hold the tension on my middle finger with my thumb. Then we're going to pull the loop that's on the left up over the other loop, but not off my finger. Now we go to the one that's on the left now, pull that one up over the other one and off my finger. Grab my crochet hook, insert it into the loop on my finger and pull it off. Hold the working yarn in my right hand, short tail end in my left. I'm going to pull on this strand so this knot will go to normal tension. We're going to start with a chain, and the thing with half double crochet is that there is no chain multiple, so if you want it to be a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, you can easily add or subtract any number of chains that you'd like. To chain, we're going to yarn over and pull through the loop on our hook. Yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook. Yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook. Each time we do that, we get one of these V shapes here. We don't count the loop that's on our hook. We have 1, 2, 3 chains. Now I'm going to go ahead and work up some more so I can have a small sample to show you. But I'm going to put up a chart that's going to show how many chains you're going to want to have depending on the size that you're working. Now I did 13 chains here for my sample. Again, we don't count the loop that's on our hook. We're going to skip that first chain and the second chain, and in the third chain is where we're going to work our first half double crochet. And these 2 chains that we're skipping, those are going to actually count as the official first half double crochet of the row. To half double crochet, we yarn over our hook, insert it into the center of the chain, yarn over and pull through. We have 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Yarn over, insert our hook into the center of the next chain, yarn over and pull through, 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, yarn over, insert our hook into the center of the next chain, yarn over and pull through, 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. Alright, each time we work a stitch, we're going to get one of these V shapes at the top where you see there's a bottom leg and a top leg. That is going to be one of our stitches. So when you're ready to count your stitches, you'll look to the top for those V shapes and you'll be able to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we just need to remember that the chains we skipped in the beginning count as number 7. So when you run out of the V shapes at the top and they start to fall down the side, that's when you're going to add that last one in. Now we're going to go ahead and continue half double crocheting into each chain all the way across the row. Now row 1 is complete. If you count your stitches, you're going to find that you have just one less than the total number that you chained. I chained 13 and I have 12, including this chain here at the beginning. If the last stitch opens up, you can just grab the knot and pull on the tail end to close it back up. That slip knot is not secured yet, but we'll take care of that later. For row 2, we're going to chain 1 and turn. We're going to start with a half double crochet into the very first stitch that our chain is connected to. Yarn over, insert your hook into that stitch at the top, picking up both loops of the V shape on your hook, and then complete your half double crochet. Alright, you're going to see the same V shapes at the top as you work if you want to go ahead and count your stitches. But you're going to go ahead and continue working all the way across, and then we're going to do the last stitch together. Once you do the last half double crochet before the chains, it'll look like you're finished. But if I counted my stitches right now, I would notice that I only have 11 half double crochets, counting with those V shapes at the top. The very last one is going to be worked into the top chain of that chain 2 that we skipped. If we look at the row below us, you're going to see that right underneath us, that is the chain on the top, and then below that, that's starting to turn inward, is the chain on the bottom. We're going to work into that chain at the top, and what we see here is we see the top leg swooping over to the left, then we see a vertical leg there, that's the back bump. We're going to push to the right underneath that back bump so that when we push our hook through, we have the back bump and that top leg on our hook. Alright, before we do that, let's go back into our current stitch, yarn over, then go down to that chain, right in the center of the chain behind the back bump. This is going to be for added security, that's why we want to go behind it, and push through, and then complete a half double crochet. And now the row is officially complete. The shaping is going to be off a little bit, but once we add some more rows, it'll start straightening it out, and once we put the border on, it'll really come together. This is the only row you need to worry about working into that chain. All the rest of them are worked into half double crochet stitches only. So for row 3 and all the remaining rows, you're going to work them the same exact way as this. We start with a chain 1 and we turn. We half double crochet into the very first stitch that our chain is connected to. And then we continue to half double crochet into each stitch all the way across the row. And that's the end of the row. We were able to work all of our half double crochets into a half double crochet from the previous row. If we counted our stitches now, we would have the same number of stitches that we had in each of the previous 2 rows. So again, my sample started with a chain 13. That gave me 12 half double crochets. And if I use these V-shapes at the top, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. As you're working, if you notice the end start to kind of take a dip, or the beginning where your fabric starts to look sort of like waves or triangles on the ends, not counting the beginning because this shaping is going to be off, but as you work more rows on your blanket, then it could mean that you have missed a stitch. And if you're a beginner, it's very easy to miss the first or the last stitch. So just turn to those V-shapes at the top every once in a while and go ahead and count your stitches to make sure that everything is lining up perfectly. If you find that you did miss a stitch and you want to go back and fix it, all you have to do is pull on your working yarn and the stitches will come out. Now, depending on the yarn that you're using, depending on the size of the blanket, you may at some point run out of yarn and need to attach a new ball. Or you may come to a knot in your current yarn. You'll want to cut that out and then reattach the yarn to keep going. It does not matter where in your project you are. If you're in the middle, if you're doing it at the end of the row, if you're on the right side, if you're on the wrong side, it doesn't matter. You're going to switch the same way. You're going to start by working the next half double crochet. Yarn over, insert your hook into that next stitch as normal, yarn over and pull through. We have the 3 loops on our hook, and the last step now is yarn over and pull through. So this is where you're going to switch to your new ball. I'm going to lay this down. I want to make sure there's a tail end long enough here that I can comfortably weave in. So if you've come to the end of your ball of yarn and your tail end is really short, you're going to want to go ahead and take out a couple stitches so that you can have a tail end long enough that you can comfortably weave in. If you're cutting out a knot, you would go ahead and fasten off. If you're at the end of your yarn, it's already going to have a tail end like this one. You're going to grab the new strand. You're going to form a loop near the end, leaving a tail end long enough you can comfortably weave in. Put this loop onto your crochet hook. That's going to count as the last yarn over. And then you're going to pull that through those 3 loops, and that's going to complete the half double crochet. Now my stitches have gotten taller here, so I'm going to come back to this gray tail end and I'm just going to pull down on it so that will go down to normal tension. Then I'll pull on the new strand that I'm adding, so that goes to normal tension too. Then I'm going to drop the tail end to the back, and I'm going to grab the working yarn in my hand as normal. And now I would just continue working half double crochets all the way across the row as normal, just with my new strand. And I've done it a new color here so that you can see the difference between them, but yours would most likely be the same color. Now, if you wanted to do stripes, then you would do the same kind of color change. You would just do it in the last half double crochet of the row. So in the last stitch, yarn over, insert your hook into that stitch as normal, yarn over and pull through. 3 loops on your hook, go ahead and set that down. Grab your new color, forming a loop near the end. Mine is still attached, but pretend this is cut here as a tail end. Just leave a tail end long enough you can comfortably weave in. Put that loop onto your crochet hook, which is going to count as the last yarn over, and then pull it through all 3 loops. Then if you need to, go ahead and tug down the original color, tug down the loop of the color you've added, drop your tail end, pick up your working yarn, and then you can chain 1, turn, and start your next row in the new color. I've worked up 7 rows here, so let's go ahead and see how to count our rows. If we look down here at the bottom, my tail end is currently coming out on the left side, and row 1 is going to be the right side of the fabric. It's going to look prettier, the stitches are more defined compared to row 2, which is just above it. We're looking at the back side of the fabric, so the stitches are less defined. It's more textured, it's raised up a little bit. So row 1 down here at the bottom, we can see that vertical stitch from our half double crochets. Row 2 above it, the stitch looks a little bit different, but it is still the vertical stitch. This one has a little V shape at the bottom. Row 2's the wrong side or the back side. Row 3, our stitches look the same as row 1. They're a little bit more pretty, they're a little bit more defined. Row 4 above it is more textured. The stitches are a little less defined. The vertical stitches look a little bit different with the V shape at the bottom. The biggest difference when you're looking at these 2 rows is the texture. That's what catches my eye when I'm counting, so I always go by 2s, starting here at row 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on, just because the textured part is so easy to pull out of your fabric. If you're using a variegated yarn, a very colorful yarn, it's going to be a little bit tougher. If you're using a more solid color, it's going to be easier to pull out those textured rows. But here in this sample, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 rows. Now I'm going to put up a chart that's going to show how many rows you're going to want to have depending on the size that you're working. And this is really flexible too. If you want it to be a little bit shorter or a little bit taller, you can very easily add or subtract rows by any number that you like. I've finished all my rows and I'm ready to add the border. I'm going to be changing colors to do my border. You can continue in the same color if you'd like. But to change colors, I'm going to do so in the last half double crochet. I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into the stitch, yarn over and pull through, so I have the 3 loops on my hook. Now the next step is to yarn over and pull through to complete it, so this is where we're going to switch colors. Set that down for a moment. Grab my new color here, making a loop near the end, but leaving a tail end long enough I can comfortably weave in. And I'm going to put this loop onto my hook. That counts as the last yarn over, and then I'm going to pull through to complete the stitch. That's going to complete it in the gray, but now you have the color for the border on your hook. So I'll tighten down my gray here, so this will go to normal tension like the rest. Drop that tail end and the new tail end. Pick up the white in my hand, chain 1, and turn. The first part of the border is going to be worked along the top, the same way that you would work if you were just working another row. Now I'm going to be doing single crochet for my border. If you want to continue in half double crochet, you can do that as well. I'm going to work a single crochet into the very first stitch here that my chain is connected to, insert into that stitch. I have 2 loops of the V shape on my hook, yarn over and pull through, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over and pull through both loops. Insert my hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over and pull through both loops. Insert my hook into the next stitch, yarn over and pull through, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over and pull through both loops. I'm going to pull up on this really quick. I'm coming back here where I've switched, and I'm just going to tug on these tail ends to make sure everything is nice and even. And now I'm just going to go ahead and continue working down the row, working single crochets into each stitch. And you'll notice they just look like a smaller half double crochet. They still have the V shape at the top, so if you want to count, you can do that. You'll have the same number of single crochets up here as you did in the body of your blanket. You're going to go ahead and just continue working all the way across until you get to the very last stitch. And once we get there, then we're going to go ahead and work an increase together for the corner. And now I've reached the last stitch of the row. In this stitch, I'm going to work multiple stitches so that this corner will lay flat. And whatever we do in this corner is what we need to make sure we repeat in all of our corners. So I'm going to start by working one single crochet. Then I'm going to chain 2 and work another single crochet back into that same exact stitch. Just insert my hook right back in there and complete the second single crochet. And you can change this up. If you want to do something so that you get a more rounded corner, then you would do single crochet, chain 1 single crochet, or you could do 3 single crochets. I have a more square corner here. An alternative to this is going to be single crochet, half double crochet, single crochet. Completely up to you how you want to do it. I'm going to do all mine this way: single crochet, chain 2 single crochet. Before I continue working down the side, I'm going to pull up a loop here so I don't lose this. I'm going to come back to my beginning tail. I need to fasten off that gray. And I want to go to the bottom. It's important that I show you row 1 is the right side of my fabric. That's the pretty side of my fabric. Row 2 is going to be the more textured, raised up. The stitches are a little less defined. That is row 2 right above it. So row 1 is at the bottom for me. My beginning tail end is on the left side. If you're currently looking at row 1 as the wrong side and your tail end is coming out on the right side, then as we work down this next side, your stitches are going to look a little bit different, and you may want to use the timestamp section to jump ahead for the instructions that I'm going to share for going up the next side. Just because, depending on the side that you're working on, you're either going to look exactly like mine, or your row is going to be opposite to mine and you're looking at the back side. The stitches look very similar on both sides, but it is just a little bit different. As you're working into the side of half double crochet, the rule is for every 2 rows, you're going to work 3 stitches. So let's look down here where I have this wrong side and this right side. Where the right side is, at the end of that, you can clearly see the stitch. Then, going up to where the wrong side row is, you're going to see a hole up there at the top. Those are going to be the 2 easiest stitches to pull out. Then you know that you need to work 1 stitch in the center of those. Looking down here, you have the hole at the top. You have the stitch that's very easy to see here at the bottom. And now you have a spot in the middle where you need to work a 3rd stitch. The other thing is, when you're working into a hole, you're going to insert right into the center of the hole. There's going to be 2 loops on your hook here, but it's going to be very difficult to see. When you're working into the stitch, you want to work into the side edge of it. Don't insert your hook in the space in between those 2 half double crochets, because then you're going to get a lacy edging. You want to insert into the center of that last stitch, breaking it in half. And when you do that, you're going to have 2 loops there on your hook that are going to be much easier to see. The same V shape that you would see when you're working into a stitch as normal. When you're working into the center of those, you may at times just get 1 loop on your hook, or you may get into a spot here where it's a little bit more secure, where those 2 legs cross each other. In the center, it's okay if you can only pick up 1 loop. But on the other one, try your best to pick up both loops so that you have more security on your stitch. Otherwise, the edge is going to pull on those stitches and you're going to get a lacy detail on the side as well. So here where I've just worked my corner is the stitch that I was calling the hole. Then I have the stitch in the middle and then the half double crochet on the end. When I insert into this next stitch, I'm going to go into the very next stitch that I can work into. It looks like a hole as well. You can see the bottom leg underneath it and the top leg swoops around there. I'm going to go right into the center there. And then I'm going to complete my single crochet. Now I'm going to go into the side edge of that last stitch, breaking it in half, and then picking up 2 loops of the V shape. Then we start again into the hole that is very easy to see, single crochet, into the very next stitch, which is a hole that's a little bit harder to see, but you can see the bottom leg and the top leg there, right in the center of those. And then into the side edge of the next half double crochet, breaking it in half, pushing through so I get 2 loops on my hook. And that's how we're going to continue working all the way down. And when you work up the next side, you're going to follow a very similar manner, though the stitches may look a little bit different. Just a reminder here, as you're working, try to work as close to the side edge as possible, not in between the stitches. And if you get lost while you're working, try counting as you go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. It will help you keep track as you're going along so that you don't add or take away stitches in that set of 3. Go ahead and continue all the way down the row, and once we get to the end, we'll finish the row together and then we'll increase in the last stitch. I've made it down to the end. I have 2 rows left, so that is going to be those 3 stitches there. And then there's going to be 1 stitch in the corner, which is actually the first chain that your slip knot is connected to. And that chain is where we'll increase. So I'm going to continue to single crochet into these next 3 stitches. And then in this next stitch here, in the first chain that's in the corner, I'm going to work my next corner increase. Same as I did before, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. So if you decided to do something else in the last corner, just repeat that here. I'm going to rotate this. I'm going to tighten up this stitch. You can see that mine is opening because the slip knot's not secured yet. So I'm just going to hold on to the slip knot in between my fingers, give the strand of yarn a tug to close that up. I'm going to hold the tail end to the back so I can crochet over just for a couple stitches to count as my first pass. I'm going to hold it to the back just so I can crochet 1 stitch over it. And then I'm going to drop it and I'll weave it in later. So when we're working along this side, we're working into the opposite side of the foundation chain, and it's going to be worked the same way as you did row 1. So we're going to insert our hook right into the center of the next chain. In this case, I also have the tail end on my hook, and I'm going to complete a single crochet. Tighten that up and drop it. And I'm going to continue to single crochet into the center of each chain all the way across until I get to the next corner. Once you reach the other side, I have one more stitch left here in the second to last stitch. That one's really easy to see. The one on the end, it's going to curve over. And here is where we're going to work into the corner chain. So let me work this next stitch. You're going to see that the very next stitch is a chain, and then directly underneath that is another chain. So those are from the beginning where we worked into the third chain. These are the two that we skipped. We're going to be working into the very next chain that's going to be our corner. I'm going to insert right into the center of this chain, pushing towards the bottom so that I can pick up the leg from the chain I'm working into and the leg from the chain underneath it. Right where they cross, that's where I'm going to insert my hook, and that will give me two legs on my hook to give me a nice secure stitch. And then I'll complete my single crochet as normal, chain 2, same as I did with my other corners, and I'm going to go ahead and work the next single crochet of the corner back in that same exact stitch. It's much easier to see the stitch now. It looks like a hole. And that's our third corner complete. Now you'll rotate your fabric so you can work up the last side. As we're working up the next side, we're going to do it in a similar manner. Our stitches are going to look a little bit different. I'm going to skip these first 2 rows here and block off the next 2 rows. Where my right hand thumb is, you're going to see a large hole right here. If you follow that up, there is one leg that swoops over the top. This is not where we're going to work. Our first stitch is going to be to the left of that. It is a chain, and it is right next to the first half double crochet of that row. We would insert our hook right in the center of the chain. You have the bottom leg here on the bottom, and then another leg here on the top. So inserting right into the center, you can see that hole. When you do that, you're going to have one leg over here underneath, and it crosses with that other leg behind it. So this is a nice secured stitch. That's going to be number 1. Number 3 is the stitch that looks like a V shape right in the center of it, breaking that stitch in half but still picking up 2 loops of the V shape. So we have number 1 as that chain, number 3 as the V shape, and in the center of those is what looks like a hole. When you insert your hook into that hole, you're still going to have 2 loops there. They're a little bit tighter, but that's going to be stitch number 2. Going back here to where we just finished our corner, the stitch that we worked our corner in is the first stitch for this set of 2 rows. Then I have the one here in the middle that looks like a hole, and the one next to it that is the V shape that I'll insert right into the center of that V shape. And those 2 stitches plus our corner completes the first 2 rows. So I'm going to work into that next stitch, single crochet as normal, right into the center of the V shape, 2 loops on my hook, the next stitch, we are not working into that next loop that we see that is above the hole in between the rows. We're going to go to the stitch that's to the left of it that looks like a chain, inserting right into the center of the chain. Then into the center stitch here, and then into the V shape. Not into the next loop, but into the next stitch that looks like a chain, right in the center, then into the middle stitch, and then into the V shape. Not the next loop that's above the hole, but into the chain that is next to it, into the middle stitch here, and then into the V shape. And you're just going to go ahead and continue working in this manner all the way up until you're back to the beginning. Now I've made it back to the beginning. I have the first 2 rows here, so I'm going to work the first stitch as normal, the second stitch as normal. I'm having to pull my tail end out of the way so that I can see the stitch. I'm going to push that gray to the back so I can make sure it's on the back side when I'm ready to join. And now we just need to complete the corner increase here. So the same place where we've worked our first single crochet of the round, that's where we're going to insert our hook. Single crochet, chain 1 only, because the slip stitch is going to count as the second stitch. I'm going to rotate this a little so it's easier for me. Then I'm going to insert into the first stitch, picking up both loops of that stitch, yarn over, pull through that stitch and through the loop that's on my hook. That's a slip stitch join, and now the border is complete. I'm just going to do 1 round on my border. If you wanted to continue adding rounds to your border, you absolutely could do that. It doesn't have to be in single crochet. You can change it up to whatever you want. But if I was going to continue in single crochet, then I would chain 1, work 1 single crochet into that very first stitch and all the way across the row. Once you get to the other side and you work your last stitch into that first single crochet of the corner, then you're going to go into that chain space of the corner, and that's where you'll work your next corner. Single crochet, chain 2 single crochet, or whatever you want to do. Then you work a single crochet into that next single crochet of the corner and into each stitch all the way down. And that's how you would continue all the way around. In this corner here at the end, you would insert into the chain space still, single crochet, chain 2 single crochet, and then slip stitch join to the first single crochet of the round. And you can continue adding as many rounds to the border as you'd like. Again, you can experiment with different stitch patterns if you want to do that, but I'm going to stop here after this first round. I'm going to come back to my yarn here. I'm going to fasten off with a tail end long enough I can comfortably weave in. Pull up on this loop to break it. And I like to bring the tail end to the back, so I'm going to use my hook to insert from the back to the front into the same stitch I slip stitched to. Yarn over with the tail end and bring it to the back. And now it's on the same side as the other tail ends, so I'm ready to go ahead and weave in my ends. I'm going to thread this gray into my tapestry needle. That's where I fastened off at the end of the body. I like to work 3 passes. That's my magic number. If you feel comfortable after 2, you can fasten off. If you feel like you need to work a 4th one, you can do that as well. I don't pick up the whole stitch on my needle when I enter and exit. Instead, I insert into the center of that stitch to break it in half, and that's just going to help to capture my yarn a little bit better. So I'm going to insert here into a nearby stitch, breaking it in half, and I'm going to run vertically, trying to keep as close to the side edge here as possible. That's going to hide the bulkiness a bit better. Breaking that last stitch down here when I exit. Hold on to the fabric in between my fingers and pull the needle through. That's going to help prevent some of the bunching. And then once I get it all the way through, use my fingers to manipulate the fabric if I need to, if it has bunched up. I want it to lay naturally. Inserting here into a nearby stitch, breaking it in half, back up through several of those same stitches I just finished, and break my last stitch in half when I exit. Hold on to the fabric in between my fingers, pull the needle through, give it a tug, use my fingers to manipulate the fabric if I need to. As pass number 2, insert into a nearby stitch here, breaking it in half, run back through several of those same stitches and break the last stitch in half when I exit. And then I can fasten off. I'll do the same thing with the white that is currently going downward right there into the white stitches of the border. The other one I'm going to go horizontally, and as I work horizontally I just want to make sure that I am manipulating that fabric so it's not bunching up. It's much easier to bunch up your horizontal stitches. I have some tail ends here in the center where I had a knot and I had to fasten off and reattach my yarn. So I'm going to just follow the direction they fall in. This one on the bottom, I'll do it downward into those stitches there. Again, working vertically to hide it the best and prohibit it from bunching up. And the one on the top, I'll just follow it upward into some of those stitches there. And then we have one more stitch down here at the bottom where we did our slip stitch. And I'm going to do that the same way, just working upward here. So I'll go ahead and do those off camera. And that's it. My blanket is all ready to go. Guys, thanks so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please make sure to smash that like button to let YouTube know that you enjoyed it. It helps my channel out a ton when you do that. Pop down into the description box below for all the information about making this blanket, including the link to my website where you'll find the free written pattern. You're also going to find the link to subscribe to my blog down there. Blog subscribers get to download the PDF of patterns for free via the free file library on my website. I'll catch you guys next time.